companies that are utilizing it to help drive are the ones that are much more transformational and having more success.
Hey, what's up YouTube? Jeremiah Hersey here, and welcome back to the next episode. This is part 2 of my Iterator and X functions. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about how the filter function and how X functions work. In the last video I described the functionality, how they only look at a table expression. Well, today we're going to start using them inside of measures, and we're going to see what happens when the filter context changes what the row context is going to see within inside of these iterator functions, which is a filter function or any X function. If you want to follow along, there's a link in the description down below. You can download the PBI. Let's go ahead and get started. In the last episode, we were talking about how to use iterator functions or X functions using DAX. So today we're going to continue along that same path. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start creating a measure, and this measure is going to use one of these iterator functions. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the number of sales, but only for the color blue. So that's going to be our task here, is we only want to look at sales when the color is blue. We want to create a new measure that defines that. And we'll break it down into the individual filter context. Remember, these are the filters in this case. And any of these slicers are also filters. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new measure. And we're going to call this one blue sales. So we're going to count the number of rows where the sale table color column is blue. So we're going to start off with a count rows function. And so the count rows function is going to count the rows of a table. So in this case, we're going to use the filter function to create our table. So the filter function is one of those iterator functions that is going to keep us in row context. So anytime you use the filter function or any X function, you are stuck within inside of the table that you're defining here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to call out to the sale table. And then the second part of the filter function is the expression of whatever the filter is. And so in our case, it's going to be where the sale table and the color column is equal to the color blue. And we're going to put blue inside of double quotes because it's a text string. So the double quotes signify that it's a text string. We're going to close up our two functions here, and we're going to return it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and drop this measure inside of our visual. And of course, we talked about formatting, so I can select the measure here and I can put the comma in there to have the comma separated value. And so we can see that it's working just fine. So here's our blue sales. We're using a filter function, and once again, this is a iterator. So it looks over a table. The table in that case is the sale table, and it filters it down to where the color is only blue. Now, this works fine as long as the filter context, which remember filter context comes from the slicers and what's inside the visual, as long as the filter with inside of color doesn't change. So notice as I select January here, blue sales is going to filter just fine. So as I choose the months, it works just fine. But as I go to choose a color, if I choose blue, notice that it works okay. But when the filter context changes how this measure is run, notice that blue sales now goes to blank. Okay? The reason for this is because the filter context has already filtered this table down to where the color is gray. So if it's filtered down to where the color is gray, it will not find where the color is blue. So this is part of that iterator function having row context. And so because the filter has been overwritten, it overwrites what our measure is saying. That's why the values go to blank. So notice if I choose any other color besides blue, it's going to be blank. Now, how do we fix this? Well, we're going to fix this by modifying the filter context. And so we talked about this when we were creating calculated columns, the calculate function. So I'm going to hit Control / I just highlighted everything and hit Control /. That's going to comment out my code. So I'm going to leave that in there for you, but the way that you would want to write this is using the calculate function. So the calculate function is going to do essentially the same thing, but calculate allows us to modify the filter context. Okay, we can define what we want. And so in this case, we are just going to use the same expression here. We're just going to count the rows of the sale table. Now the second part of calculate is the filter. Remember I was talking about this square bracket before. This means it is an optional parameter. We don't have to include it. But in our case, we do want to include the filter. And for us, the filter is going to be where the sale color, sale table color column, is equal to the color blue. All right, so we'll go ahead and run this expression. And what you're going to notice is it's going to allow us to calculate blue sales regardless of the filter that's being applied. So as I select black or red or white, notice that blue sales does not change because this is specific to the filter of the buying group. Okay, so anytime you want to modify the filter context, you're going to use that calculate function. All right, let's do one more here. Let's create a new measure. And this one's going to be blue profit. Okay, we're going to find the profit here. So we'll call this blue profit. And we're going to use a SUMX function here. Okay, so remember X functions and the filter function are iterator functions. They look at a specific table and we're stuck in row context in that table. So in this case, we're going to use a combination. We're going to use a combination of the SUMX with the filter function here. So this is what's called nested row context. And so we have an iterator function with inside of an iterator function. In this case, we still want to filter down the sale table. The filter expression that we're going to use here is where the sale color is blue, just like we did in the other one. So equal, and then we're going to put in double quotes the color blue. So that's the filter table. It's filtered down only to the color blue, the sales table. Then the expression that we want to run in this case is the sum of the profit column. So we're just going to sum up the sale table and the profit column. So we'll close up that parenthesis and we'll run that. Remember that measures can only be seen inside of visuals, so we need to add it to the visual here. So we're going to select blue profit. So notice now, once again, we're encountering the same problem. The color is selected white. Blue profit is now blank. It will only work if the filter context matches the row context within inside of the measure. So in order to fix this, once again, you're probably thinking, oh, well, can calculate fix that? Absolutely. So that's how we're going to rewrite this. So we want to make sure that no matter what color they choose, that we're able to show what the blue profit is specifically for that buying group. So to modify that, we're going to go back to our formula. Once again, I'm just going to hit Control / to comment out all of that previous code. And this is how we should write it. Now, we're going to use calculate, but remember, we have a total profit measure already, which sums up that profit column. So best practice would be to use this explicit measure. And this is the benefit of creating these measures, is that we can now call out to them. So I can calculate total profit. I'm going to hit tab here. Remember, we don't want to reference the home table of the measure, only the name of the measure itself. So we want to find profit where the sale color is blue. equals, same, we're going to write it same exact way here. And we're going to close up that parenthesis. Now when we run this, once again, the calculator allows us to modify the filter context. No matter what color I choose, I'm able to find the profit for the blue buying group NA, Tailspin Toys, and Wingtip Toys. I want to thank you so much for joining me in this video. I hope you like it and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content. And I'll see you in the next one.